So this is about putting yourself first, enjoying each day and feeling better. Because we don't, do we? I think a lot of us, we find with ourselves, we're putting ourselves last. Sometimes you're not even on the list of things at the end of the day. You're too busy making sure that everybody else is okay. Now, I didn't ask if anybody knows about my story, but within a nutshell, I cared for my husband, Neil. And at the time I'd only been seeing him 6 weeks, and he fell ill with a brain tumour. And I said, just get better, I'm here for you, which I'm sure you do for your loved one, not realising the detrimental impact on my life and health over those next 13 years. And then I fell ill and Neil ended up in emergency respite, and I realised I needed to make changes. I was very isolated at times. I wasn't there for me. I was quite harsh and quite critical about myself. Are you the same as well? And I also felt that certain family and friends, they didn't really understand. They found it easier to judge than to actually be vulnerable and be loving and say, how are you? What do you need? How can I help? And with that, I did actually start to find new ways to look after myself. That's when I started to write Who Cares? And I thought, my God, we learn this, the hard way on our own, and which is just not fair, is it? When you think about carers save our economy something like £182 billion a year, the cost of a second NHS, which is colossal. So we need that support and love because you are very important. And this is what I always share when I'm giving my talks, because this literally sums it up. Think about your life now. Life is not about abstaining and enduring. Are you doing that at present? It's still about enjoying your life, especially if you are a carer. And then there's the book if anybody hasn't seen it before. And I give countless talks for lots of companies and for charities as well. So that's been going on for 5 years. And I'm a carer representative on the Health and Wellbeing Board for carers, looking for all the gaps where carers need to be mentioned. And I'm a mindfulness instructor as well. So I'm going to ask you all a question now. Now you could come off mute and I want you to shout it out. I'm going to ask you, I want you to think of everybody in your life right now. Everybody that's your nearest, your dearest, family, friends. I'm going to ask you this. I want you to think about this for me. Who is your number one in your life? Who is your number one? And I want you to think about who that person is. And I can't see on the chat, so if you want to come off mute and just shout it out, you're very welcome to. I know that some of you might have read the book, so there is the chapter in there which is about who is your number one. Yes. Who is your number one?
I would say my parents. I know I say it shouldn't be. It should be ourselves, but for me, it's always my parents.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. And, for me, it would be Neil. It would be my husband while I was caring for him. He was my number one. He was my sole focus. Whenever I was thinking about anything, doing anything, or, planning something, he was always in my mind. He was my number one. But guess what? As you know, probably you are number one in your life. You are not the person you're caring for, not even children if you have kids as well, but it's about you. The buck stops with you because you need to take care of you, because if you're not here, how can you take care of your loved ones anyway? The whole thing would stop. That it would all grind to a halt. But it's the nature of the carer's role to be there for everyone else, and your sole focus, actually your subconscious is hardwired on this, that you're being there for everyone else, that you're not there for yourself anymore. In fact, we bypass ourselves as carers. That's why so many of us end up falling ill, because we just don't factor ourselves in, do we? So this is from the Carers Masterclass. I haven't shared this for a long time, but I know that we all know the sound of music, and you've got Maria there twirling around on a mountain top. Now, think about the Sound of Music. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't watched the film. And basically she turns up at a house where the mother has passed away, and the mother had all these children. And basically Maria is a caregiver in The Sound of Music. She turns up as the nanny to be there for those children where the mother has and sadly passed away. And so she is a caregiver and she's filling that void, being love and kindness. Think about yourself at the same time, being there, filling that void of love and kindness, being there for your loved one. Now, she is pivotal within The Sound of Music. Imagine Maria not being there. You know, she was singing to the kids, she was being there for them, letting, you know, a spoonful of sugar, let the medicine go down, didn't it? There was all sorts of songs and they were all enjoying. But when you look back at Maria and you look at that film, I want you to imagine that they've got the producers and the director and he's just gone, do you know what? We're just going to axe Maria straight out of that movie. We don't need the caregiver. We're just going to leave it at that. How good is that movie going to be now? Those children have still lost their mother and they need a caregiver. They need somebody there for them, nurturing and being there. But Maria isn't there to give her love, her guidance, like you do for your loved one. She, in the movie of her life, was number one. And as she was central to the movie, you are central to the movie of your life. So you're playing out this movie in your life, and you are, as Maria is, number one. But we don't feel like it, do we? When you're caring, you're kind of busy being there for everyone. I haven't got time for me. But you know, if we fall ill, then we have to make time. And I found that as a really hard lesson whilst caring for Neil. I ended up on a silent retreat and I remember being ill for months and months. And I remember thinking, my God, I'm not even on my list of priorities of things to do. I completely axed myself. And no wonder I felt mentally and physically unwell. You need to factor yourself in every single day. So recognize all that you do. As well as physically, you give more than you realize. And, you know, maybe you're everybody here is unique, and I've been hearing your stories today, thank you. But maybe you need to be a pillar of strength for others. And therefore you can't show, you know, your true emotions, as you need to be strong for those around you. Or maybe you're too busy supporting them. So for example, I think about Neil's mother. She was elderly. And so if I was taking him to A&E again, the last thing I would do is ring her in the middle of the night and say, oh, just let you know we're back in A&E. Because I know the knock-on effect of that would be she would have a sleepless night and then she wouldn't be very well. And it would impact her. So as a carer, we're gauging on who we share information with, who we need to talk to, don't we? You have to have that emotional intelligence about you to factor in all sorts of elements, you know, thinking about your parents as well, as we were talking, you know, what you need to share with them, what you don't, what works for you, what doesn't. So there's so many elements. Caring is very complex. And checking in with the cared for, reading the signs to see what they need right now. I'm sure with all of you here, and I'm sure, you know, Neil unfortunately was unable to speak for those last 4 years, but I knew what he wanted. I knew what Neil liked. You have that advanced level of caring. You're amazing for what you do. So recognize that you could actually know what your parents might need this afternoon, what they might not, what they like, what they don't like, you know, maybe your husbands as well, when you're talking, you know, what they need, what they don't need, what they prefer. So you have that advanced level of caring. So recognize that. And maybe you're thinking ahead of what might be the next steps needed for your loved one as well. You know, for me, for example, when I found out about INS, the neuro charity based down here in Twickenham, when I found out that, you know, they did one-to-one physio, bang, I'm like, that's it. My little ears were pricked and like, I need to get Neil in there. So you hear about these places and the services that can support us. You know, you're always looking as well, aren't you? Or asking, hopefully you're asking as well. Just keep pushing, you know, the boundaries of what else is out there, because there's so many great services in all our areas, but often we don't know what is there. So you're always looking proactively, trying to make sure that you make the best for you and your loved one. So you can come off mute if you want to on any of this, if anything comes up that you want to share. But what physical support do you give to the cared for, you know, and your loved ones? Because often some of us are caring in all sorts of capacities. Maybe you're a sandwich carer, caring for children and then caring for older parents as well. But, you know, you may be giving a lot of physical support. And for a lot of us as carers, we can struggle with a bad back as well. I certainly did. If you're maybe moving and handling and picking things up, So just think about what you do as physical support. And then also, as I said, this completely gets kind of like sidelined, but what emotional support do you give the cared for and your loved ones as well? We're always thinking about everybody else or thinking steps ahead and actually for women in particular, our whole brain fires on wires when we're thinking about what we need to do to plan ahead, because we're thinking about everybody. But like I say, often we're not thinking about ourselves. So think about all the wonderful things that you do, because you really are quite amazing. But you know what? I don't know about you, but when it comes to me, when I was caring for a loved one, I didn't really feel I was doing much. But, you give a loved one a better quality of life. Imagine if you weren't there, all the things that you do, you are amazing. And just in them knowing that you're there can give them peace of mind. They know that you're that rock of support. You're helping them feeling loved and wanted. It's lovely that, they have a carer, they have you. Not everybody does. And caring can often keep loved ones alive, sometimes for years longer. And I noticed this particularly with Neil, in those last years of his life, when he went into the hospice. Not everybody fares well, and it depends on where they go, but Neil would go downhill rapidly. But when I got him home and he was back here and I was caring for him, he was clearly better. My love kept him going for much longer, which is absolutely wonderful. And you may not feel this, but I'm going to say it now. You are a true inspiration to others. Not everybody can care. So recognize all that you do and go easy on yourself. And do have those breaks and do some nice things for you. But we'll be talking about that shortly. So what normally happens when you start caring? Well, some of us have been caring for a few years now here, but life is already hectic. I know that. There's many commitments, and every carer is unique, and the person that they care for. So you may be at working age, maybe you're not, maybe you've got family to attend to as well, and you've got other commitments. Everybody, all of you here will have a diverse and dynamic life of what's going on for you, and then suddenly caring comes into play. We are dealt that card of caring, and it can happen overnight in a heartbeat, can't it? And you have so much that you need to deal with. Doctors, specialists, social services, paid carers, finances. This is a small list that goes on and on. I think about all sorts of things that I had to deal with. The list was endless. And maybe there's commitments that you've had to let go of. Maybe there's things you've wanted to do. I mean, I gave up my job full time to then start to care for Neil full time in the end. I needed to be here for him. So maybe there's elements that you've had to do as well, where you've had to give up because you just don't have the time to do that anymore. So caring is really strong. It can be one of the biggest challenges during our lifetime. And you are their rock of support. You really are. And you're giving emotional support that I said earlier. And you're also giving physical support. So be careful with your body. Make sure that you may be doing back exercises, for example. I ended up having to do that. And when you are moving and handling, just take great care. Take great care of you. You don't want to go hurting yourself. Also, I don't know about you, we were talking a bit earlier, but if we're not getting a service that we require, that we need to bang a drum and we need to fight their corner. I had to fight Neil's corner in the hospital, at GPs, getting him to the right hospital. I remember doing all sorts of things, so don't be shy in coming forward, of just speaking your truth and letting others know. And you're also a support to other family, because you're the one that has stepped up to care. Often others may step back and leave you to it, but you're amazing in the fact that you're the one being that primary carer, looking after your loved ones, which is so amazing and critical. And of course, they're all depending on you, so you can always feel that weight, can't you? It's almost like 2 buckets of sand around your neck. It's like, oh my God. So this is why it's so important to factor in time for you. Don't feel guilty. Start to have that time out. Push back nowhere to say no, so that you can look after yourself and start to have that time for you, so you can bring in a bit more fun and a bit more joy. Otherwise, we end up abstaining, enduring, as I said at the beginning. And as you give, all of these take your time, your energy, and your life. and they really do. And we start to notice that. So that's why it's so important to factor in time for you. So I'm going to get you to do a capital T. I've not done this one for a while. So take a long, deep breath. Slow breath out. And I'm just going to get you to put your arms out like you're a capital T. I'm going to make you do it for long, don't worry. So just bring your arms out to the side. So you're sticking them out like that. Take another long, deep breath. Now, capital T, bringing your arms out, is just one day of caring. So I don't worry, I'm here for your loved one right now. And you're keeping your arms out like that. But as you continue going on, your arms start to feel heavier. Can you start to feel they're starting to drag? You can feel it, right? I'm not going to make you do it much longer. But that is like caring. It builds up bit by bit. Yeah, Sylvia can feel that. And you start to go, oh, and you can feel that weight. And you just go, don't worry, I'm still here for you. But it's dragging, it's draining. And that is caring. At first, you're like, don't worry, what do we need to do? What do we need? But as the time carries on and as we slowly continue, it gets heavier and heavier, and the burden becomes, because you're not releasing that stress or that burden. That's why we need to factor in time for yourself every day, or for a day out, Gillian. Really important. Go and have some fun. Just go and do something completely different, or try some different things as well. Sometimes I was like, oh, what's the point? I feel exhausted anyway. But actually, sometimes that variety, doing something a little bit different, it puts a smile on your face. You start to have something else to talk about as well, because caring, as we know, can be quite monotonous, can't it? So that's what I wanted to share with you with that capital T. Just notice that with yourself, if you're feeling that weight, that burden, when can you start to factor in time and have a break for you? Maybe look and ask at the local carer centre, do you know any great private carers, for example, that I could come and get in? Put the feelers out so you can start to get things in place, so you can start to get back on track and do things for you, to start to enjoy life and have things to look forward to. So as you continue to care, that pressure builds up bit by bit. So like I say, with that T. And around the best part of 70% of carers end up falling mentally or physically unwell if we're not looking after ourselves. That's come from a Carers UK survey from a few years ago. And, you're amazing. You save the economy something like £182 billion a year. Carers are colossal. They are the backbone of our society. And it is about making sure that you have the right support in place. And this is the trouble for a lot of us as carers. Caring becomes habitual. So you'll become hardwired to care. So to go out and have time for you, then you feel guilty because am I going to get judged? Or your loved one expects you to be there with them all the time. But as I would say to Neil, when I would have a break once in a blue moon for a week, I said, look, I know you want me here, but I need a break. And I made it very clear to him, I will be back before you know it. And he would go into the hospice to give me a break. But I need this time out. And what that means then is I feel better and stronger, and I can carry on looking after you. And sometimes it is just relaying that message to them and making them aware. And I know that it's difficult when it's expected of you and you've been there, and it becomes that codependency of you being there for your loved one. And it is about putting that oxygen mask on yourself, because this is what I see with so many as carers. Not only do you not put the oxygen mask on yourself first, which is what they tell you to do in the cabin or on a flight, don't they? But you put it on your loved one because you're too busy focusing on them. Then on top of that, because you're trained to just look and please everybody else, you start putting the oxygen mask on anybody else who needs help while you slowly shrivel. It's time to put that mask on yourself. Every single day, start thinking to yourself, what do I need? What do I need today? How am I feeling? What can I do to make myself feel better? Start to really tune in with your body and your mind. Start to think about and everybody here is different, of all sorts of things that you would like to do to make yourself feel better. Some of us here might like to go for a walk with a podcast or some classical music in your ears. Some of us might go for a run, or maybe like a bit of yoga. I like a bit of yoga as well. Or taking the dog out for a walk. Maybe it's a bubble bath or reading a good book. Take that time for you. Or maybe seeing some friends that you've not seen for a while. Give them a ring and say, hey, what are you doing? Come on over, or let's go for a cuppa. My question to all of you here, I know some of you may have heard the talk before, but how do you perceive yourself as a carer? Because for me, when I was caring for Neil, I would say, oh, I'm just a carer, if anybody would ask. But you know what I might as well have said? I'm just a dog's body, because that's exactly how I felt. And that's how I treated myself. I treated myself as a doormat. But what is the knock-on perception of that? If I treat myself as a walking doormat and I'm just being there for everybody else but myself, well, at the end of the day, I ended up basically everybody else was treating me as a doormat as well. People thought, oh, it's all right, she's dealing with it, she's doing it, so we don't need to worry about it. That's why it's so important that we vocalize. It's about letting others know how you feel. Don't suffer in silence, because if they don't know, then they think, oh, because if you kind of go, oh, I need help, I need support. Oh, I didn't realize, I thought you were coping okay. Some people just have no awareness, and sometimes we really do need to be very honest and very direct, even to get that support that we need. But remember, as a carer, you are so much more. And even though you don't feel it, but you are amazing. You are a lifeline to others. And I want you to think, imagine a world where nobody cared. Imagine none of us were a carer. Imagine you now just went, you know what, I've just packed my bags, I'm going, bye. And that was it. And maybe I did that with Neil, and he would be laying there in that hospital bed and just ringing his family and said, do you know what, I'm off. I've finished caring. Imagine nobody caring. Millions of people needing our help across the globe. They'd have to draft in the army. Things would happen and go awry, wouldn't they? Just remember, you keep the world going. Care is so incredibly important. Love and care literally keeps the world going. It keeps people alive. So remember that. And push back. Know where to say no. You're also here for you. And one of the things I notice, say, you've got maybe have family or whoever it might be saying, oh, can you do this? Oh, we want you to come to this. You can feel it in your bodies. Just start to really tune in. The body, Gabor Mate talks about this, the body says no, or it holds score. Your body knows. So if you can feel it in your body if somebody says, oh, can you come and do this for me this weekend? And you feel tired and you think, well, why is it down to me? Why do I have to do that? And if you can feel it in your body's already telling you it's a no. And just saying it in a very diplomatic way, I'd love to help, but I don't feel very well at the moment. And I just need some time out. But when I feel better, maybe it's a yes next time. Just softly kind of pushing back can be a good thing to do. But let others know if you're not feeling so good and you need that time. So, what is the true value of carers? I've already shared about how colossal it is anyway. But for you personally, recognize that it's here to value your worth and recognize all that you do so that you can start to factor in time for you and start to do some lovely things for yourself. Factor in time for yourself every single day. So we're going to go into a little bit of detail on this. Giving yourself a break. What's on your me time list? And you can come off the as well, so I can hear you off mute. So I'm just going to give you a flavour, some ideas. So even if you've seen this talk before, because I know that I've shared it on some other bits and pieces, but it's important not only to carve out time for yourself and so that you can start to have the things that you enjoy, but this is the thing, and this is something I noticed with myself. When you feel low and you're not feeling so good, you don't then think of all the wonderful things you can do to enjoy yourself, do you? Because you think, oh, I don't feel so good. And mentally, then you can't think about how you can pick yourself up again. So having a me time list and then getting that ready to start to think about it. So I'm going to give you some questions in a moment. And then sticking it up, even on your fridge, having that menu, that list prepared. When you're not feeling so good, you can go straight to the list and go, oh yeah, I forgot about that podcast, or I haven't spoken to that person. And then jotting all those things down, there they are ready for you. So here's some questions to start to make you think. What makes you laugh? What makes you laugh? So you might like a bit of comedy. There might be all sorts of things. Maybe it's there's a grandchild or a daughter, whoever it might be, somebody that makes you chuckle. I love a bit of comedy. And who do you enjoy spending time with? Maybe write that list down. Maybe there's people that you've not seen for a while. Oh, I've not seen her for ages, and I know that life gets busy and sometimes friends and family move away, don't they? But who do you enjoy spending time with? And when you do get outside, where do you like to go? Julian's in Kew. And for me, I love going down River Crane or Bushy Park. What's the green spaces for you? Where are you able to go and enjoy? And what exercise do you like doing? I'm not talking about a sprint finish. I think we all feel a bit exhausted whilst caring. But doing some really simple exercises, like maybe yoga, maybe some back exercises. Just going for a walk is extremely beneficial. And maybe music. Music can be so uplifting, can't it? What kind of music do you like? Everybody here will be different. I love a bit of relaxing music. I like something a bit Foo Fighters as well. You might be surprised. But then I like a bit classical as well. I play a violin, but I've not played it for a while. But, all sorts of music. Everybody here has all sorts of things that we like to listen to that will make you feel better. And even doing a bit of a kitchen disco. One of my friends who cared for her husband who had a brain tumour, she would do a kitchen disco every now and again. She'd dance around her kitchen and put a little light on in there to make herself feel better. So, all these sorts of things. And then again, what relaxes you? Again, all of us here, there'll be things that we like to do. Maybe it's gardening. It's something that you enjoy. Or maybe just sitting out in the garden now that the weather is starting to improve. So there's some science-backed evidence from looking at all this and starting to factor in things for you as well. What it does, it gives your brain and body time to recover. Because if you keep thinking about all the caring, it gets you down, doesn't it? It bogs you down. You need a little break and a reprieve from that so you can come back to you. And then having that time for you and doing some fun things, it actually lowers stress and cortisol levels in the body as well. Sometimes we're doing this and we're in that kind of fight or flight and we don't even realise we are at that time. So doing these kind of little things and having breaks for yourself, it starts to bring your body back into balance. It also helps to restore mental energy and prevents burnout. And it improves emotional clarity. Because the trouble is, I don't know if you found this as well, but when you're caring and you're in that mode of being there, trying to do everything, you're firefighting, you can't see the wood for the trees, you can't think straight, and then of course you just say yes to something when you maybe needed to say no. But in having time for you and bringing yourself back to yourself and taking some time out, it helps to improve your decisions of what you need to say yes to and no to. Also, in doing these kind of things, it also enhances creativity and problem solving. There's been times when I've taken the dog for a walk and I've got away from here, I've gone, oh yeah, I didn't think about that. It suddenly starts, but when you're in it and, getting frustrated and angry and upset, you can't think straight. So in having that time and doing something lovely, it actually helps to problem solve. It really does. And it strengthens your sense of identity. I think all of us here as carers, you end up losing, yourself of who you are, and as a person in your own right, you feel like you kind of that, you're kind of tied to that other person or people that you're caring for. So get creative and get that list up. Just even write down a handful of things and thinking, oh yeah, this is what I could do. You could write it on a post-it note. It doesn't need to be a long list. And then get it up so that you're there for you and having a reminder to have some fun. So before I come out, I want to ask you all about that as well. This is the Wheel of Wisdom from Carers Masterclass. I look at 5 key areas of your life, and then we start to factor that in. So this is an online course which is on my website. I think the link is in the chat. So we look at all different key areas, looking at clarity, starting to really gain clarity and hone in what's going on in your life. Then we take back control, because I think for a lot of us as carers, we feel like our life is out of control. We're being there for everybody but ourselves. And then your support network and connect is really beneficial. You know, that can make or break a carer if you haven't got the right people around you and supporting you. I had a lot of people who were quite draining at one time, and actually there's certain friends that I don't see anymore, and I've actually made space for new friends that have come in. I've noticed that with a lot of carers end up doing that, with people who do really recognise and understand what you're going through and what you need. And then it's also about your core, your health and well-being, not just your loved one, but for you as well. Because I think for all of us here, I fell ill from caring. Most carers do if they're going through it for a long period of time. So it's bringing together just some very simple things for you to start to look after yourself. And finally, cloud nine, obviously that's kind of that expression, is about enjoying your life. You know, you're amazing. Not everybody can do what you do. So it's about celebrating you, enjoying your life, and not feeling guilty about it. So it's a great online course with lots of strategies and solutions, and discover how to make simple shifts. Sometimes you will hear something go, I'm just going to try that, and it changes everything. Believe me, I know, because it did for me. So you can start enjoying life again. And this course is easy to follow, and you can learn at your own pace. There is no rush, it's up there. And with it, I also offer free audio chapters from my book that you can listen to as well. So they're not available anywhere else. So I'm just going to put that price up. So I'm just going to pop that in there as well. It was £197, it's £99 now, but it's on my website. So there's a lot more detail on there if you want to have a look. And I've had so many great testimonials. They've just switched off, haven't they? They've gone. But lots of testimonials from great care. So I actually shared that course at Richmond Carer Centre a few years back and did it physically in front of some carers, and they absolutely loved it. And as we mentioned earlier, thank you to Amanda, about the award-winning book. You know, if you haven't seen it, do get a copy. It's packed full of insight, all sorts of ways to look after yourself. And it's the book I could have done with reading. That's what I wrote. And with that, Frances says from Independent Living, she said it's a wealth of practical advice and information. This book is written from a deep personal level, including the steps to take to recover from a very low point, and I'm just going to come off in a second, to reach a situation where you can regain your health and start to enjoy life again without feelings of guilt. Now, I've also put a link in the chat for next month's talk. I'm going to share some different things, empowering yourself and making your life easier. So it's about how are you, and we're going to look in a deeper level. It's also, this is something I've not shared for a while, but being truly authentic. What does that mean? Not just with others, but with yourself. And I'm going to be talking about the carer's response mode, because it's about trying to unpick and not being so hardwired to care so that you can factor yourself in every day. Now, I don't know about you, but I was shocking, a proper people pleaser. I had the disease to please. Are you a rescuer like I was while I was caring for my husband? No wonder I fell ill. So recognizing where you are pleasing and where you are not, so that you make sure that you're factoring yourself in. And we're going to do a body scan and relaxation techniques. So click the link in the chat to register. It's actually going to be on Thursday, the 21st of May. So it'll be in about a month's time from 2 till 3.